Sunlight filtered through the delicate lace curtains, landing on my face with a comfortable warmth. I stirred, still drowsy. My whole body ached with a pleasant soreness the way it does after a long run, but my heart was sweet, as if dipped in honey. Yesterday was my wedding day, my wedding to Harrison Sterling. Everything had been perfect. Slipping into the custom-made gown, taking my father's arm, walking down the crimson aisle toward the man who promised to love me for a lifetime. The blessings of our guests, the laughter of my nieces and nephews, and the deep, intoxicating look in his eyes as he slipped the ring onto my finger. Every detail replayed in my mind, an endless loop that kept a smile fixed on my lips. Leanna Sterling, I whispered to myself. Wife. I buried my face in the pillow next to me, which still smelled of Harry, and grinned. Just then, my cell phone resting on the nightstand buzzed insistently. The harsh vibrations shattered the room's sweet tranquility. I fumbled for it, glancing at the screen. An unknown number. Probably the wedding planner or the hotel with some follow-up business. Given the scale of the event yesterday, it wasn't surprising. I cleared my throat, trying to sound more awake, and answered, "Hello, good afternoon." On the other end was the voice of a man, quiet and a little nervous. He first confirmed my identity. "May I speak with Miss Leanna Croft, the bride from yesterday's event at the Serafina Grand?" "Yes, this is she." I felt a flicker of confusion. The voice didn't sound like our bubbly wedding coordinator. "Who is this, please, Miss Croft?" "Miss Sterling, I mean." "My name is Mr. Davis. I'm the director of banquets of the Serafina Grand." He introduced himself, but his tone lacked the warmth and professionalism of a hotel staffer. Instead, he lowered his voice, making it sound strange, almost conspiratorial. "I'm sorry to disturb you on your first day as a married woman, but there is a matter of extreme importance we need to inform you of immediately." My heart began to beat faster for no reason. Extreme importance. What could be so important that the hotel needed to find me right now? A billing issue? Did we leave something valuable behind? "Mr. Davis, please just tell me," I said, sitting up straighter. "Mr. Davis" seemed to take a deep breath on the other end of the line before continuing, his voice dropping even lower, almost to a whisper. "It's about the security camera footage, the CCTV from your wedding reception yesterday. It's hotel policy to create backups and perform routine checks of footage from major events. This morning, our security staff, while reviewing the footage from the Crystal Ballroom and its adjacent areas, found something that isn't right." "Footage that isn't right?" My fingers tightened around the phone. "What do you mean, not right? Is something missing? Was there a security breach?" I pressed a vague unease, replacing my initial annoyance. "It's not a theft or a typical security issue," Mr. Davis denied quickly. He paused, as if choosing his words, and then finally seemed to make a decision, speeding up his speech. "Miss Sterling, I'm not comfortable discussing the details over the phone. The situation is delicate. One might even say serious. We strongly advise that you come to the hotel yourself to review the original CCTV footage from a specific time and location yesterday. You need to see it for yourself to understand. Come in person, review footage, a specific time and location." My breath caught in my throat. What on earth could have happened at my wedding that was so serious it required me to watch a recording? Did someone crash the party and cause a scene? But before I could think further, Mr. Davis's next words pierced my ears like shards of ice, freezing me in place. An icy chill shot through me. "Furthermore, Miss Sterling," his tone was grave, almost a warning, "please ensure you come alone. Do not tell anyone, especially not your husband, Mr. Harrison Sterling. Until we understand the full context of this situation, please do not disclose anything about this call or the footage review to him. This is very important. Please remember, don't tell Harry. Why? This wedding was about the two of us. What could possibly need to be kept secret from him?" emphasized even. A profound sense of dread washed over me. Wild speculations flooded my mind, only to recede, leaving a cold residue behind. Could Harry have done something during the reception? Impossible. He was by my side the entire time, perfect and flawless. "Mr. Davis, what exactly happened? Can you give me any hint at all? This is too strange." My voice had become a hoarse, trembling whisper. "Miss Sterling, I understand your confusion and anxiety, but because I cannot accurately judge the nature and severity of this matter, I am even less qualified to draw conclusions over the phone. The footage requires your interpretation. The hotel can only provide a factual record. The interpersonal dynamics and the reality behind them, we have neither the right nor the ability to pass judgment." Mr. Davis's tone was professional, yet I could detect a hint of sympathy. "Please, for your own sake, come as soon as you can. I will be waiting for you in the security control center on sub-level 2. When you arrive, just call this number and I'll come out to meet you. Remember, come alone." The call ended. The long, droning dial tone echoed in the room, but I sat frozen on the wedding bed, phone in hand, unmoving. The sunlight in the room was still warm and bright. The air still carried the faint, sweet scent of yesterday's floral arrangements. But all of it was suddenly shrouded in a dark, ominous cloud by that mysterious phone call. "Don't tell Harry." Those words echoed in my mind like a malevolent chant. I turned to look at the empty pillow beside me. Harry had woken up long ago. He'd said there was an urgent international conference call with the London office he had to handle in his home office. When he left, he'd kissed my forehead gently and said, "Sleep in, sweetheart. I'll make you breakfast after my meeting." So considerate, so normal. Yet the hotel manager's words were a thorn piercing the fragile new bubble of happiness I had just built. Should I go? Logic told me this could be a misunderstanding or even a cruel prank. Maybe it was just footage of some trivial, misinterpreted moment. Harry loved me. He had poured his heart into this wedding. It couldn't be, but deep down a small sharp voice insisted, "Go, Liane. You have to go. If you don't, you might regret it for the rest of your life." I gritted my teeth, threw back the covers and got out of bed. My bare feet sank into the plush carpet, but I felt no warmth. I quickly changed into simple, casual clothes, tied my long hair back, and tried not to make a sound as I approached the bedroom door. I paused. I glanced back at the beautifully decorated room filled with the joy of a newlywed couple. Then I slowly turned the knob and slipped out. The door to the home office was closed. I could faintly hear Harry's fluent English, his voice serious and focused. Holding my breath, I tiptoed across the living room, grabbed my car keys from the entryway table, and slipped out of our home like a thief. The entire drive to the Serafina brand, my heart pounded against my ribs. My palms were slick with sweat. I kept telling myself it had to be a mistake, that the hotel was overreacting. Maybe they just recorded an awkward misunderstanding. Harry loved me. It couldn't be. But the warning, "Don't tell your husband," haunted me like a ghost. Arriving at the hotel, I bypassed the opulent main lobby. Instead, I parked in a secluded corner of the underground garage, just as Mr. Davis had instructed. Then I called his number. Less than 2 minutes later, a middle-aged man in a manager's uniform, with a grim expression, emerged from an inconspicuous emergency stairwell door. He glanced around quickly before walking briskly toward my car. "Miss Sterling," he said in a low voice. I nodded and got out. "Follow me this way." Mr. Davis said little else. He led me through the door into the hotel's logistics corridor. The lighting was dim, the air was still, and the only sound was our footsteps. We took an internal staff elevator which required a keycard directly down to the second sublevel. The silence during the ride was suffocating. Mr. Davis clearly had no intention of elaborating until we reached our destination. This silence only amplified the pressure and fear in my heart. Finally, we stopped in front of a heavy steel door with a sign that read, "Security Control Center, authorized personnel only." Mr. Londing's Infaudice. Davis swiped a card and entered a passcode. The heavy lock clicked open. Inside was a large room. An entire wall was covered with monitors displaying real-time feeds from every corner of the hotel. Several uniformed security guards sat at a console, but they all stopped what they were doing and looked at me in unison. Their expressions were complex. There was curiosity, assessment. But what made my blood run cold was the look of pity. Yes, pity. I was sure I hadn't imagined it. "Manny, please pull up the recordings for the Crystal Ballroom, the main reception hall, as well as the second-floor bridal suite, and the adjacent emergency staircase area from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. yesterday. Focus on the segments I flagged this morning," Mr. Davis instructed a young guard. He then turned to me, gesturing toward a small partitioned-off office in the corner. "Miss Sterling, let's watch in here." With unsteady steps, I followed him into the small room. Inside, there was only a desk, 2 chairs, and a high-performance computer monitor. The guard named Manny quickly brought in a portable hard drive, connected it to the computer, performed a few clicks, and then quietly left, closing the door behind him. Now it was just me and Mr. Davis in the room, with the monitor glowing with a faint blue light. "Miss Sterling," Mr. Davis's voice sounded jarringly loud in the small space. "Please prepare yourself. What you're about to see may be extremely upsetting." "Are you sure you want to view it now?" I stared at the dark screen, my nails digging into my palms, mustering all my strength. I nodded. Mr. Davis sighed, moved the mouse, and opened a video file. The screen lit up. The image was in color, high definition. The angle was from a high corner showing the area just outside the second-floor bridal suite I had used yesterday. There were no cameras inside the suite itself. The timestamp showed 2:00 p.m. The ceremony had just ended and I was downstairs greeting guests in the ballroom. No one should have been in the suite. Only the casual clothes I had changed out of and a few personal items were on the sofa. Suddenly the door to the suite opened. Two people entered one after the other, and they immediately locked the door from the inside. When I saw their faces, my blood froze. All the strength drained from my body. My ears roared and the world went dark for a second. It was Harry. And Chloe. My best friend since childhood, my maid of honor. Yesterday Chloe had been crying, telling me how happy she was that I'd found my happiness, saying Harry was a good man and I had to cherish him. She had fussed over my gown, handed me tissues, bustled about all day. But now on this CCTV footage, the moment the lock clicked, Chloe, who had been walking in front, immediately spun around and threw herself into Harry's arms. Harry showed no surprise or resistance. He naturally wrapped his arms tightly around Chloe's waist, lowered his head and kissed her fervently. It wasn't a polite peck. It was a deep, passionate, all-consuming kiss. They clung to each other, arms wrapped so tightly it seemed they wanted to crush one another. Chloe's hand was already sliding under Harry's wedding shirt. I clamped my hand over my mouth to keep from screaming. A wave of nausea rose in my throat. My eyes were wide open. Tears welled up without warning, blurring my vision, but the ugly scene was still seared onto my retinas. I don't know how long passed, maybe a few seconds, maybe an eternity, before they broke apart, panting, their bodies still pressed together. Then I heard their conversation. Chloe was using a tone I recognized, but laced with a coquettishness and complaint I'd never heard before. Harry, I almost couldn't take it anymore. Watching you put that ring on her finger, seeing her lean against your shoulder looking so blissful. I thought I was going to go crazy. How much longer do we have to hide like this? Harry stroked her hair. His voice was a gentle murmur I had also never heard before, but it slithered into my ears like a venomous snake. Baby, just be patient a little longer. We just got married yesterday. It would be too obvious to ask for a divorce now. You have to give me some time. Time. You always say you need time, Chloe whined. Don't forget about the trust fund her father left her, her company stock, and that old family home of her mother's that's about to be redeveloped. That's a lot of money. You're her legal husband now. All of that will be half yours soon enough. You're not actually going to keep pretending, are you? Don't tell me you've actually grown a soft spot for her. Harry let out a cold, cynical laugh. The sound plunged me into an icy abyss. A soft spot, don't be ridiculous. That stupid girl Liana. Besides her money, what else does she have? She's naive, gullible, and boring. I've been sweet-talking her all this time for a reason. Once I get what I'm owed, finding an excuse to kick her to the curb will be easy. Then all that money will be ours, and he won't have to play the part of the dutiful, heartbroken maid of honor anymore. Chloe squealed with delight and kissed him again. That's more like it. Oh, and her cousin who works at the bank. He seemed suspicious of us. The other day he asked Liana if your investment project was reliable. You need to be careful. Don't worry, Harry said, his voice full of calculated confidence. The project contracts are flawless. The money is being routed through several layers. It's all clean. Her cousin is just a small-time analyst. Nothing to worry about. The most important thing now is to keep Liana calm. Don't let her suspect a thing. We'll wait a few months until the time is right. I couldn't hear what they said after that. A loud ringing in my ears drowned everything out. I sat slumped in the chair like a wooden puppet, my body cold, shivering uncontrollably. Tears streamed down my face, but I couldn't make a sound. So the perfect wedding that had moved me to tears yesterday was from start to finish a meticulously planned sham. The husband I loved most and the friend I trusted most had been carrying on an affair behind my back for who knows how long. They had not only betrayed my heart but were also openly plotting to seize my assets. Stupid girl, naive, gullible, boring. That was me. All the happiness and security I had felt crumbled in that instant, becoming the saddest, most cynical joke imaginable. Mr. Davis quietly slid a box of tissues toward me. His face was full of discomfort. He waited for me to calm down a little, though I knew I never would, before whispering, Miss Sterling, there's another piece of footage from the emergency staircase. The time is around 3 p.m. They met again, and there was more. A more explicit conversation about their plan for the asset transfers. Do you still want to see it? I lifted my head. Through tear-blurred eyes I saw the vile couple on the screen still embracing. A sharp, gripping pain shot through my chest, making it hard to breathe. but amidst the boundless pain and cold, a tiny yet fiercely burning spark ignited in the deepest part of my heart. It was rage. It was hatred. I wiped the tears from my face with the back of my hand. When I looked up again, my eyes were still red and full of pain, but the devastation was gone. I said to Mr. Davis, my voice hoarse but terrifyingly clear, "Show me. Show me everything." And Mr. Davis, I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "This original CCTV footage. Please make sure it is kept safe for me. I will need a copy." Mr. Davis looked at me, seemingly surprised by my rapid change, but he nodded immediately. "Don't worry. We have strict standard operating procedures. The original footage will not be disclosed without authorization. As for a copy for your own security and by regulation, I can't just hand you a hard drive." He paused. "But should you need it, we can cooperate in providing relevant evidence as long as it's within legal bounds. Miss Sterling, remember, you're not alone. Some things require calm, and even more, they require the right approach." His words were like a sedative, and also like a bucket of cold water on my overheated brain, which had been screaming at me to rush home and tear their faces off. He was right. I couldn't be reckless. Harry and Chloe had clearly been planning this for a long time. They were calculating. If I went home and made a scene now, besides scaring them off and being humiliated and called crazy, what would I accomplish? I had to be calm. I had to see everything, record everything. I needed to know just how dirty their plan was, how much they had schemed, and then I would make them spit back out everything they had swallowed with interest. I would make this treacherous, vile pair receive the most bitter retribution they could ever imagine. I stared at the monitor, which had started replaying the footage, Chloe's triumphant smile and Harry's false tenderness. Now, in my eyes, they were no longer sharp knives that caused me pain, but a preview of their tragic end. On the second day of my marriage, my world collapsed. When I walked out of that suffocating little room in the CCTV control center and stood once more under the dim lights of the underground garage, the world outside seemed to have changed. It was still daytime with sunlight peeking through the garage vents, but I felt a chill that ran from the tips of my hair to the soles of my feet. Mr. Davis walked me to my car. He hesitated as if wanting to say something, but in the end he just whispered, "Miss Sterling, it's a long road. Take care of yourself." I nodded, having no strength to even say thank you. I mechanically opened the car door, got in, and started the engine. The hot air from the vents blasted my face, but I couldn't stop shivering. The scene and the conversation from the CCTV footage replayed in my mind like the most vicious curse. Every detail was excruciatingly clear. Harry's hand on Chloe's waist, Chloe on her tiptoes to meet his kiss, their greedy, disgusting expressions as they plotted to steal my assets, and Harry's cynical laugh when he called me naive, gullible, and boring. My heart was no longer in pain. It was a numb, hollow void. A cold wind blew through it, but I couldn't fall apart. Not yet. I drove to a quiet spot by the river, parked the car, and just laid my head on the steering wheel, letting silent tears flow. After I had cried it all out, I splashed my face with cold river water. Looking at my swollen, haggard reflection in the car mirror, I whispered, word by word, "Liana, tears won't save you. They deceived you, they're plotting against you. You have to make them pay." Taking a few deep breaths, I pulled out my makeup bag. I used foundation and concealer to cover the traces of crying and applied a bit of lipstick so I wouldn't look so pale. Only then did I restart the car and head back to the house that was supposed to be our home. As I opened the door, the aroma of cooking filled the air. Harry, wearing an apron, was just coming out of the kitchen with a platter of seared scallops that looked delicious. When he saw me, a gentle smile immediately appeared on his face. "Sweetheart, you're back. Where did you go?" "I went to the market right after my call ended. I wanted to cook something nice for you." "You were so busy with guests yesterday you barely ate a thing." His smile was so natural, his eyes so caring, his tone so warm. If I hadn't just witnessed his other face on that CCTV footage, I would have been moved to tears and rushed to hug him. But now that smile looked fake and disgusting. That concern felt like sugar-coated poison. I dug my nails into my palm, forcing myself to stay calm through the pain. Then I tried to produce the most natural smile I could muster, tinged with a little fatigue. "Oh, nowhere special. Just wandered around the mall nearby, picked up a few things," I said casually, changing my shoes. I gestured to a shopping bag I'd bought from a convenience store on the way. "My back is a little sore, probably from standing in heels for so long yesterday." "Here, let me wash up and we can eat," Harry said, naturally reaching for my bag and trying to put his arm around my shoulder. I instinctively flinched away, pretending to bend down to put the bag on the floor. but my heart hammered in my chest from that brief touch. My stomach churned. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Harry's hand dropped. He looked at me, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. "Nothing," I said, straightening up and forcing a smile. "I just feel a little sticky and uncomfortable. I'm going to wash my hands first." I quickly walked to the bathroom and closed the door. Leaning against the cool wood, I took deep, shuddering breaths. The face in the mirror was pale, my eyes filled with an unconcealable turmoil and hatred. "You can't do this, Liana. He'll notice something is wrong immediately." I turned on the faucet, splashing cold water on my face, again and again practicing a normal expression in the mirror. Only when my facial muscles no longer felt stiff did I walk out. At the dinner table, Harry was still the attentive husband serving me food, talking about his company planning our honeymoon. He even mentioned, "Oh, by the way, Chloe texted this afternoon to ask how you were doing. She said she was so busy yesterday she didn't get a chance to really talk to you. Your best friend is really something." "Chloe." He dared to mention Chloe. My hand holding the fork tightened, my knuckles turning white. I quickly lowered my head, took a bite of rice and mumbled, I was afraid if I looked up the fury in my eyes would burn everything down. "Sweetheart, are you really tired? You don't look well," Harry said, reaching out to touch my forehead. Maybe I dodged his hand, putting down my plate. "I've lost my appetite. I think I'll go lie down for a bit." "All right, go rest. I'll clean up." Harry's tone was still full of tolerance and affection. I practically fled back to the bedroom. Closing the door, I slid to the floor, leaning against it, all my strength gone. Sharing a table with the man who had shattered my world, listening to his fake concern and pretending like nothing had happened, this was worse than hell. But I knew this was only the beginning. I had to endure. For the next few days, I lived as the person I despised most, an actress wearing a perfect mask. In front of Harry, I tried to play the role of the naive, gullible little woman, immersed in newlywed bliss. I would smile at him, respond to his affection, even though every touch made me want to vomit, discuss decorating our new home with him, and even occasionally act spoiled. But at the same time, using the excuse of organizing post-wedding clutter and dealing with some documents from my father's estate, I started going out alone more frequently, creating time and space for my investigation. The first thing I did was contact my cousin Alex. He was the cousin Harry and Chloe had mentioned in the recording, the one who worked at an investment bank, and was suspicious of them. He was 5 years older than me and had always been like a big brother. He was principled and sharp. Before my father passed away, he had personally asked Alex to look out for me. I kept it brief on the phone, just arranging to meet at a quiet cafe far from our usual haunts. When we met, Alex first congratulated me on my marriage, but then his brow furrowed. "Leah, you look thin. And pale. Is Harry not taking good care of you?" Hearing his familiar concern, my nose stung. The tears I had been holding back almost fell. I glanced around, lowered my voice and got straight to the point. "Alex, I need your help. There's something wrong with Harry and Chloe." Alex's face immediately turned serious. "What kind of problem? What did you find?" He had clearly been suspicious for a while. I omitted the most painful details but recounted the gist of what I saw on the CCTV footage, their affair and their plot to steal my assets. As Alex listened, his fist slammed down on the coffee table, making a nearby patron jump. He quickly lowered his voice, but the rage in his eyes was unmistakable. "That bastard, I knew that slick son of a bitch was no good. And Chloe, acting like your sister, while stabbing you in the back. Liana, what's your plan? You want me to find some guys and take care of him?" "No, Alex, we can't be reckless," I cut him off. "They've been planning this for a long time. They must have backup plans. We need evidence. Hard evidence of how they plan to move the assets and what's really going on with that investment project. If we act rashly, we'll get nothing." Alex took a deep breath, calming himself. He nodded. "You're right. I just got so angry. Don't worry, I have contacts at the bank. While I can't legally check a client's detailed transactions if Harry is making large fund transfers or has suspicious account activity, I can get wind of it. And that Blue Wave sustainable energy project he got me to invest in, I'd had a bad feeling about it for a while. The prospectus looks too good to be true, unrealistic. I have a friend who works in corporate auditing. I'll ask him to quietly look into the project's background and credentials." A warmth spread through my chest. In a crisis, family was the only thing you could truly count on. "Alex, thank you. But you have to be careful. Don't let anyone know you're investigating. Don't worry. Your cousin isn't an idiot," Alex said, his eyes filled with sympathy. "Liana, I'm so sorry you're going through this. To stay this calm, it's incredible. Do you need money or a lawyer?" I know a few excellent attorneys who specialize in economic fraud and divorce cases. They're trustworthy. A lawyer? Not that. Let's wait until we have more evidence, I said, thinking for a moment. Alex, could you help me find a reliable private investigator? Nothing major. Just to track Harry and Chloe's movements, especially when they meet privately. See if they can get any photos or recordings. Alex was slightly surprised, clearly not expecting me to suggest this, but he quickly nodded. Okay, leave it to me. I'll find someone discreet and effective. After leaving Alex, I felt a little more grounded. At least I wasn't fighting this alone anymore. But I knew the main battlefield was still at home with Harry. I needed to get direct access to his core information. Harry's home office was always locked. He claimed it contained sensitive business documents and was afraid I'd accidentally misplace something. I used to respect his privacy and never thought to go in. Now that locked door undoubtedly hid countless secrets. He carried the key with him, but I knew he had a habit of keeping a spare inside a thick, English-language textbook on the living room bookshelf. He probably thought that with my disinterest in dense academic texts, I'd never touch it. I had discovered it by chance one day while helping him look for another book. At the time, I just thought it was a quirky hiding spot. Now it was my opportunity. One day, while he was in the shower, my heart pounding, I retrieved the spare key, quickly unlocked the office door, slipped inside, and gently locked it again behind me. The office was neat. His computer was password protected. I tried a few combinations, our wedding date, his birthday, even Chloe's birthday, all wrong. Time was short. I didn't dare try again. My eyes shifted to his filing cabinet. It was unlocked. I quickly flipped through the files. Most were company reports, copies of project contracts, all looking normal. Until I found a hard-bound folder at the very bottom of a drawer. When I opened it, my blood ran cold again. Inside were several documents. One was a draft of a full power of attorney with my name to be signed. It stated that I would grant Harry full authority to manage all assets under my name, including withdrawals from my father's trust fund, stock account operations, and even the sale of real estate. The date was blank, clearly ready for me to be tricked into signing it at any moment. Another was a supplementary agreement for the Blue Wave Energy project. The terms were complex, but I understood the core of it. I, as the investor, would provide funds from my trust. A large portion of these funds would be used for overseas technology acquisition and channel development. The recipients of these payments were several shell corporations registered offshore that I had never heard of. It was a clear setup to funnel money away, or more accurately, into their pockets. There were also a few of Chloe's business cards, but her title wasn't the administrative executive at a small trading company I knew her to be, but investment director at a firm called H.C. Capital. Harry, Chloe, H.C. How utterly nauseating. I'd use my phone to take clear pictures of every page of these crucial documents. My hands were shaking so badly that I almost couldn't focus. I also found an old burner phone. After charging it and turning it on, I discovered it was filled with explicit text conversations between him and Chloe. He must have wanted to keep them as mementos of their sweetness, along with several hotel receipts. The dates went back long before we were even married. Just as I finished taking the last photo and carefully putting everything back exactly as I found it, the sound of the shower stopped. I froze. I quickly double-checked that I hadn't left any trace, slipped out of the office, locked the door, and returned the key to its hiding place. The moment I sat on the sofa and picked up a magazine, Harry walked out, toweling his hair. "Sweetheart, reading a magazine?" he asked casually. "Yeah, just flipping through," I said without looking up, afraid he would see the storm raging in my eyes. A few days later, Alex had news. He told me that through his discreet inquiries, Harry's company account had recently seen several large fund transfers disguised as consulting fees or service charges to a few personal accounts. One of those account holders was confirmed to be Chloe's mother. And the Blue Wave Energy project. His friend found out that while a project with that name was registered with the Energy Commission, it was a tiny venture whose core technology patents had been bought out by a major corporation years ago. What was being peddled on the market now was an investment scam using the old project's name. At the same time, the private investigator sent over some photos and surveillance reports. In the photos, Harry and Chloe were meeting secretly in different places, sometimes in the corner of a quiet cafe, sometimes downstairs from Chloe's apartment. They were intimate, holding hands, embracing. One shot even caught them kissing in a car with fogged-up windows. The report stated they met frequently, almost every day or two, usually when I was supposedly out shopping or when Harry claimed to be working late. Every photo, every line of the report was like a dull knife sawing at my already wounded heart. But strangely, after the extreme pain came a cold numbness and an ever-growing hatred. The evidence was mounting, the puzzle pieces fitting together. I knew Harry and Chloe were also speeding up their plans. Chloe started asking me out more often, feigning concern and casually probing about what I'd been up to lately, whether I had checked my accounts or if I had any doubts about Harry's investment project. She even kindly reminded me that men can change after marriage, and that I needed to manage my assets well, like making stable investments. She just so happened to know a few good investment channels, she said. A trap, no doubt. Harry, on the other hand, became even more gentle and attentive. At the same time, he began to casually mention that he was interested in a fantastic overseas real estate project. It could be an investment or a future vacation home, but it required a significant initial capital. He was hinting that I should consider using the trust fund. He also brought out the official version of that power of attorney. Sweetheart, he cooed, I need to focus on this big new energy project. All the tedious signing and payment processes, you'll find them annoying. Why don't you just sign this power of attorney over to me? I'll handle everything. You just have to be the happy wife of the boss and enjoy life. Looking at his seemingly doting face, listening to his supposedly thoughtful words, my stomach churned. But I had to put on a naive, trusting smile. Honey, you're so good to me. You think of everything, but this document looks so complicated. I've been feeling a little dizzy these past 2 days. Can I read it carefully before I sign? Besides, our money is our money, right? An almost imperceptible flicker of impatience crossed Harry's eyes, but the smile on his face didn't change. Of course. Read it carefully. No rush. Are you not feeling well? Should we see a doctor? No need. Probably just not getting enough sleep, I demurred. I knew my stalling would eventually arouse their suspicion. They had been plotting in the dark for so long, they wouldn't let their prey slip out of their control. And I was right. One afternoon I came home from shopping to find subtle signs that my bedroom had been searched. My jewelry box, the drawer where I kept important documents and bank cards, nothing was missing, but their positions were slightly off. What were they looking for? A copy of my father's will, detailed documents of the trust fund. What terrified me more was that the next day, at the bottom of the kitchen trash, I found a crushed, torn-up medicine box. I carefully pieced the fragments together. It was for a prescription psychotropic drug. The side effects clearly listed emotional instability, drowsiness, and memory loss. My blood ran cold. They didn't just want my money. They wanted to make me a publicly acknowledged crazy person, an unstable wife who due to trauma had lost her sanity and was incapable of managing her own assets, requiring her husband's guardianship. Then Harry could legally take over everything. And I would probably be slowly tormented to death in a mental institution or die in an accident. How cruel, how meticulous their plan was. Fear wrapped around my heart like a cold mine. But with it came an even stronger rage and determination almost bursting from my chest. I couldn't wait any longer. I had to strike first. Before they could drug me or create an accident, I had to rip off their masks. As I was contemplating my next move, an unexpected phone call came. It was Mr. Davis, the hotel's director of banquets. His voice was still low and cautious. Miss Sterling, I'm sorry to bother you again. Regarding the CCTV footage from the other day, we may have a new development you need to be aware of. One of our housekeeping staff, a woman named Maria, came to see me yesterday. She said that while cleaning the bridal suite the day after your wedding, she found a small recorder pin that had fallen between the sofa cushions. She thought a guest had left it behind, so she turned it in to Lost and Found. No one claimed it. Recently she saw me reviewing your wedding footage and it jogged her memory. I checked the pin. There's one recording on it that might be useful to you. If you're free, perhaps you could come by again. He paused. Also, after you left last time, we reviewed some related area logs from earlier dates and found that Mr. Sterling and Miss Chloe were not first-time visitors to our hotel. There are several other visual records, a recorder pin, earlier records. I clutched the phone, my heart racing. Could there be even more shocking secrets I didn't know? I'm on my way, I said without a moment's hesitation. After Mr. Davis's call about the recorder pin, I practically flew back to the Serafina brand. It was the same security control center on sub-level 2, the same suffocating little room. But this time, along with rage and pain, my racing heart was also filled with the anxiety of grasping at a last straw and a foreboding premonition. Mr. Davis's expression was even grimmer than last time. He said little, simply handing me a small silver recorder pen and several printouts of CCTV screenshots. Miss Sterling, this is what Maria turned in. We've checked. There's only one effective recording. The time is approximately 3:20 p.m. on your wedding day. The location was likely inside the bridal suite, or a very hidden corner. Furthermore, these are some records of Mr. Sterling and Miss Chloe entering and leaving the hotel and specific room floors we found. Based on Miss Chloe's registration information, she has booked rooms here multiple times over the past year, citing business meetings. I looked at the screenshots first. Though a bit blurry, Harry and Chloe's faces were clearly recognizable. The timeline stretched back a long way. The earliest was 9 months ago. At that time, Harry was ardently pursuing me. Every day there were good morning and good night texts, surprise gifts and promises that I was the only one he wanted to spend his life with. Chloe, under the guise of helping me bed him, was in frequent contact with Harry, but would always praise him to me, telling me to cherish such a rare good man. So from the very beginning, or perhaps even earlier, they had been together. The two of them were enjoying the thrill of an affair while simultaneously plotting how to fleece this stupid girl. I held the papers, my fingertips cold, but a fire was raging inside me, burning my organs until they ached. What's on the recording? My voice was painfully dry. Mr. Davis silently operated the computer and opened an audio file. Listen for yourself, please. Try to stay calm. After a brief moment of static, the recording began. The background was noisy. I could faintly hear music and voices from the ballroom in the distance, but two clear voices cut through the noise, piercing my ears. It was Chloe's voice, laced with triumph and calculated cruelty. Harry, I've got it ready. There are two kinds. One is fast-acting. A small dose would cause dizziness, nausea, and mild hallucinations. Perfect for occasional use to make those around her, especially that nosy cousin of hers, think she's starting to lose it. The other is a chronic type. We can mix it into the vitamins or the honey water she drinks every day. Long-term use will gradually damage her nervous system. Memory loss, emotional outbursts. Eventually she'll look like she genuinely has a serious mental illness. My breath stopped. All the blood in my body seemed to rush back to my heart and freeze into a solid block of ice. The medicine box in the trash. They were really doing it. Then came Harry's voice. Calm, cruel, as if discussing a routine business matter. The dosage has to be controlled perfectly. We can't have her die. At least not before the assets are fully transferred and the guardianship procedures are complete. We need her to appear to decline naturally. Once she's deteriorated to a certain point, I, as her husband, will apply to be her legal guardian. Then the disposal of all assets would be legitimate. Her father's trust has a clause about what happens if the beneficiary loses mental capacity. There's a lot of room to maneuver there. Chloe let out a small laugh, a sound that made my skin crawl. Don't worry. I have a distant relative who works in a psychiatric hospital. Getting an authoritative diagnosis certificate won't be a problem. After we have the money, whether she passes away in a care facility or has an accident, that'll be up to us, won't it? Good. I can't wait for the day that troublesome woman is no longer between us and all the money is ours. Harry's voice lowered with a sickening intimacy. Just a little longer, baby. After this is done, we'll get married abroad, have kids, and enjoy our lives. The recording ended there. The small room was dead silent. I could only hear the grinding of my teeth and the frantic thumping of my heart, as if it was about to burst through my ribs. They didn't just want my money, they wanted to destroy my life, they wanted me dead. The earlier suspicion about the medicine box was confirmed. This blatant, murderous conspiracy was more terrifying than any betrayal. It also completely extinguished the last shred of pathetic softness in my heart that might have lingered from our past. All that was left was a searing hatred and a desperate will to live. Mr. Davis, I don't know how I managed to speak. Each word felt like it was squeezed from between blocks of ice. This recording and these hotel records? Can I get a copy? And, can you help me find Maria, the housekeeper who found the pen? I want to thank her in person, and I might need her help with something. Mr. Davis looked at the hatred and determination that seemed ready to spill from my eyes. He was silent for a moment, then nodded. Miss Sterling, the copies will be handed the same as last time. As for Maria, he paused. She actually knew your late mother. I looked up at him, stunned. Mr. Davis, see him. Her name is Maria. She's worked here for over 10 years. She said that years ago, when your mother was still alive and would often come to the hotel for charity events, she once sprained her ankle. It was your mother who arranged for someone to take her to the hospital and covered her medical bills. She's always remembered that. At your wedding she was so happy to see you as a bride. The next day when she found the recorder she didn't think much of it. But when she saw me reviewing the CCTV, and vaguely knew it might involve you, she became cautious, and handed it directly to me. She also told me, that groom doesn't look like an honest man. Don't let that girl get bullied. She's willing to help but hopes not to get too involved. Her family situation is modest, she's afraid of trouble. My eyes instantly welled up with tears again. This time it was from a long-lost warmth, a legacy from my mother. Mom, is this you helping me from heaven? I understand. I will never let Maria get into trouble, I promised solemnly. With a copy of the recording which Mr. Davis sent as an encrypted file from his personal phone, and photos of the hotel records, I left the hotel. Sitting in my car, I didn't leave right away. Instead, I played the recording over and over until every evil word was etched into my bones. The fear slowly gave way to a steely, resolute calm. They wanted me to be sick. Fine. I would act sick for them. But I would be sick on my own terms, making them think their plan was succeeding while leaving a trail of flaws for them to fall into. I called Alex, telling him about the recording and the latest discoveries. On the other end of the line, my cousin exploded with rage, nearly ready to go find Harry and beat him up. I painstakingly calmed him down. We planned our next steps. First, I had Alex contact his lawyer friend for a confidential consultation on wills, trusts, prenuptial asset protection, and the legal issues surrounding guardianship. We began preparing a series of legal documents. At the same time, I secretly moved the original deeds to my assets, copies of my father's will, and other vital documents to a secure location that Alex arranged. Second, I started to play along with their plan. I deliberately let Harry notice that I seemed a bit paranoid lately. For example, repeatedly checking if the doors were locked or asking what time he came home on a specific day when I already knew. I was feigning the early signs of anxiety and memory confusion. On the surface, Harry was concerned, but I could see the cruel, assessing look in his eyes when my back was turned, as if his plan was working. Then one morning, after drinking a glass of warm water supposedly mixed with calming honey that he handed me, I suddenly clutched my head, feigned a look of pain, coughed violently, and let the glass slip from my hand, shattering on the floor. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" Harry rushed to my side. His voice was anxious, but the flash of something sinister in his eyes didn't escape my careful watch. "So dizzy. My head is spinning." I leaned against him, whispering weakly, acting out the initial side effects of the drug that the PI's research had reported. "Harry, am I just too tired? I haven't been sleeping well and I keep forgetting things. It must be the exhaustion from the wedding." "You haven't rested enough." Harry helped me to the sofa, his tone full of sympathy. "Don't worry. Don't go anywhere today. Just rest at home. I'll make you another glass of that honey water." I nodded weakly, closing my eyes. In my heart, I laughed coldly. "Go on. Go add more of your special ingredients." At the same time, the news of my illness quickly reached Chloe through Harry. She immediately came to visit, feigning concern, bringing a fruit basket. Her face was full of worry. "Leanna, why do you look so pale? What kind of job is Harry doing taking care of you?" She sat by my bedside, holding my hand, looking deeply concerned. I looked at her perfectly made-up face and the unconcealable glee in her eyes. I felt nauseous. But on my face I wore an expression of dependence and confusion. "Chloe, I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel so weak and dizzy, and sometimes I feel like someone is trying to harm me. Am I just overthinking things?" Chloe's expression shifted slightly before she quickly put on an even more concerned face. "Silly Leanna. You're just stressed out. Don't think such crazy things. Harry loves you so much. Who would want to harm you?" But she quickly changed her tone, lowering her voice. "But your condition is worrying. You know, I know a really good neurologist, very reputable. Why don't I take you to see him? Just for a checkup, to put your mind at ease." It seemed the next step was to get me to a hospital for that authoritative diagnosis. I pretended to hesitate. "A hospital? I'm a little scared. Besides, it's not that serious, is it? Listen to me, this is for your own good. Even if it's a small problem, it's better to find out early and treat it early." Chloe coaxed, her tone gentle but with an undeniable undertone of force. "All right then. I guess so," I agreed reluctantly, buying myself some time. "But let's wait a couple of days until I feel a bit stronger." Chloe left satisfied. I knew she and Harry would now rush to get me to that doctor. On another front, the PI sent no crucial information. He had captured photos of Harry and Chloe secretly meeting in a private room of a high-end restaurant with a thuggish-looking middle-aged man. The PI managed to get a clear frontal shot of the man, Alex used his network to run a check on the photo. The information that came back shocked us both. The man was known as Slick Benny Mancuso, the head of a small licensed loan company that was a front for a local mob outfit specializing in debt collection and extra-legal dispute resolution. How did Harry get involved with him? Deeper investigation revealed an even more shocking fact. Harry's own company had long been deeply in debt due to mismanagement and his gambling habits. The image of a promising young executive he had projected while courting me was a complete fabrication. He had married me solely to use my assets to cover his losses. He had likely even borrowed a large sum at high interest from Vinny as initial capital to create his fake persona. Chloe also seemed to have an unclear relationship with Vinny. The PI had snapped a photo of them looking a bit too friendly. She was likely not just Harry's mistress but also the intermediary connecting Harry to this criminal element. This discovery made the entire situation far more dangerous. It was no longer just about marital infidelity and asset theft. It involved high-interest loans and organized crime. Harry and Chloe weren't just pushing me into a ditch, they were pushing me off a cliff. The sense of danger reached its peak. I knew they were about to close the net. Once I was diagnosed, signed that power of attorney, or was controlled by them under the guise of treatment, those circling wolves would pounce and tear me to shreds. I had to fight back, and it had to be a single, decisive blow, giving them no chance to recover. As I was figuring out how to use all the evidence in my hands to trap them, the perfect opportunity presented itself. One night at dinner, Harry casually mentioned Sweetheart next Saturday afternoon, the main partners of the Blue Wave Energy Project, and a few senior figures who have always supported me, are hosting a banquet to celebrate the project's initial progress, and at the same time to formally meet you, the boss's wife. It's at the Pinnacle Club, very private, very prestigious. You just rest up well for the next few days. Then get all dressed up and come with me, okay? The Pinnacle Club. It was one of the most exclusive, hard-to-book private clubs in the city. Its members were all elites and magnates. Harry choosing that venue to celebrate was clearly to show off his newfound wealth with me as his ATM, to his partners and mentors. At the same time, he likely planned to pressure me again to sign something at the banquet, or to solidify the impression that I was unwell and needed him to manage everything. I looked at him, his eyes a mixture of calculation and excitement. My heart was cold, but my face held a weak, dependent smile. Of course, honey. I'll always support your career. I'll get ready. Great, Harry was pleased. With all the important people there, a venue like that is perfect. In front of all those important people. Wouldn't that be the most effective stage to tear down their facade? A complete, audacious counterattack plan rapidly formed in my mind. I needed hope. I needed to connect all the evidence. I needed a brilliant performance. I called Alex, laying out my entire plan. Alex was both excited and worried. Leanna, this is too risky. What if you lose control of the situation there? Alex, we're out of options, I said calmly. They're actively drugging me and they're involved with the mob. If we delay any longer until they're fully prepared, or I'm genuinely sick, we'll have no chance at all. A place like the Pinnacle Club is where they'll be most on guard, but it's also the best stage for us to expose everything publicly. I need you to do a few things for me. I also secretly met with Mr. Davis and the kind-hearted Maria again. After hearing part of my plan, Mr. Davis was silent for a long time before saying, Miss Sterling, the direct help I can provide from the hotel is limited. But the complete backup copy of your wedding CCTV footage, as well as the records of Harry and Chloe's clandestine meetings at our hotel, I can guarantee their authenticity and completeness, and I can provide a statement as the hotel director, if necessary. Maria, for her part, was willing to be a witness to how she found the recorder pen, but she didn't want to appear publicly. She could give a private deposition to a lawyer or testify anonymously in court. That's more than enough. Thank you both so much, I said sincerely. The hotel's authoritative evidence and Maria's crucial testimony would be vital links in my chain of proof. Finally, I contacted the senior attorney Alex had introduced, who specialized in combined economic and criminal cases. After carefully listening to my account and reviewing some of the evidence I provided, the recordings, transfer records, photos, hotel records, etc., the lawyer told me with a grave expression, Miss Sterling, your situation is extremely serious. It involves fraud, conspiracy to commit bodily harm through continuous drugging, illegal asset seizure, and potential ties to organized crime. The evidence you've collected is very strong, but it might not be enough for an immediate conviction, especially the personal injury part, which requires more direct physical evidence or their own confession. The public ordeal you're planning is strategically risky. However, if you can obtain a surprise piece of evidence on the spot, like a confession under pressure, or trigger a swift police intervention, it could be a turning point. I will immediately prepare the relevant legal documents, including an application for asset protection, a draft for a personal restraining order, and will discreetly communicate with my contacts in the SFPD to ensure a rapid response on that day, if needed. With the lawyer's reassuring words, my plan became clearer. The next few days I continued to play the part of a wife with deteriorating mental health. Harry became more attentive, constantly asking how I was offering me drinks with added ingredients, of course. At the same time, he began to hint that the banquet at the Pinnacle Club was extremely important, with many influential people attending. He wanted me to be obedient and cooperative. He even suggested that for convenience I sign some documents before the banquet. Each time I deflected with excuses of dizziness, not being able to see the words clearly, or whining, "Honey, you just handle it for me, I trust you." This made him anxious, but he didn't dare push too hard, afraid I would actually collapse and miss the banquet. Chloe also visited more frequently, bringing advice and concern from her expert, urging me to see the doctor. I always stalled, citing fear or promising to go after the banquet. Secretly, Alex and I worked feverishly. We meticulously planned for every possible scenario at the banquet and how to respond. Alex was responsible for liaising with the PI to ensure they could capture key moments that day, and for arranging reliable people to pose as waiters or guests. The Pinnacle Club had tight security. He pulled a lot of strings. The lawyer prepared all legal documents in both electronic and hard copy formats, and established a secure communication channel with the relevant police officers. I also did one last most important thing. I secretly went to a hospital for a comprehensive health checkup, especially blood and urine tests, and had the doctor issue a certificate stating that I was in good health, with no diagnosis of any mental illness. At the same time, I had the doctor analyze the samples of the vitamins and honey that Harry had been giving me, which I had secretly swapped out. The preliminary tests confirmed the presence of an illicit substance. This lab report would be the most direct hammer I would use to strike them down. Everything was in place. The night before the banquet, Harry seemed particularly excited. He held me and talked at length about his future plans, how everything would get better after the project succeeded, and the financial issues were resolved. I leaned against him, my fingers cold, but my face held an expectant smile. In my heart I whispered, "Harry, Chloe, your good days are over. Tomorrow is the opening night of the Festival of Destruction I've prepared just for you." On the day of the banquet at the Pinnacle Club, I started getting ready before dusk. The woman in the mirror wore a pearl white satin gown. The cut was elegant and understated, perfectly accentuating her figure without being ostentatious. A professional makeup artist had skillfully tied back my long hair, revealing a slender neck. I wore a pair of small diamond stud earrings, one of the few pieces my mother left me. The delicate makeup concealed the pallor from months of exhaustion. A touch of fiery red lipstick brightened my face and served as a silent declaration of war. Harry walked into the dressing room. When he saw me, his eyes lit up. He came up from behind, wrapped his arms around my waist, and rested his chin on my shoulder, looking at our reflection in the mirror. His tone was full of praise, with an undercurrent of possessive pride. "Sweetheart, you look absolutely stunning. You'll be the most radiant woman in the room tonight." I suppressed the urge to push him away, smiling softly and a little weakly at our reflection. "Honey, I'm a little nervous. My head still feels a bit foggy." "Don't be nervous. It's just a dinner meeting, a few important partners and mentors. You just need to stand by my side and smile." He kissed my cheek, then scrutinized my face. "If you really don't feel well, we can leave early, but tonight is very important. Whether the project gets its next round of funding depends on tonight. You'll support me, won't you?" There he was, starting with the emotional manipulation and pressure again. "Yes, I'll try my best," I whispered, lowering my gaze. My fingers were clenched tightly. Hidden in the slim pocket of my gown was a tiny micro-recorder connected to my phone via Bluetooth, now silently operating. At the same time, the seemingly ordinary bracelet on my wrist was an emergency alert device linked directly to Alex and my lawyer. "Let's go." "The driver is waiting downstairs," Harry said, proudly taking my hand. In the luxury car heading to the Pinnacle Club, I watched the city's neon lights streak past the window. My heart was beating steady and strong. There was none of the chaos I had anticipated, only a cold resolve. Alex and his people should already be in position. The lawyer and the police were also on standby. The evidence from Mr. Davis, the witness statement from Maria, which the lawyer had already prepared, the hospital lab report, the PI's photos, and all the various proofs stored on my phone, everything was ready. All that was left was for me to raise the curtain on this magnificent stage. The Pinnacle Club lived up to its name. The entrance was discreet, but the interior was breathtakingly luxurious. The banquet hall was on the top floor with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking half the glittering city skyline. Many guests had already arrived, men in tailored suits and women in jewels held champagne flutes, chatting in low voices. The atmosphere was elegant and exclusive. Harry led me through the crowd, constantly greeting acquaintances and making introductions. Mr. Lee, Mrs. Wong, Miss Liu, this is my wife Liana. Liana, this is Mr. Zulkifli from the investment firm, a major contributor to our project. This is Mr. Kamal from the city planning department, who has always been very supportive of new energy initiatives. I maintained a polite smile, greeting each person, playing the part of the quiet, obedient Mrs. Sterling. I could feel many eyes on me, assessing, curious, and some simply admiring. Harry was clearly reveling in this proud show-off moment. His conversation became more animated. Chloe was there too. She wore a striking, backless burgundy gown, her makeup bold. She was holding a glass, chatting with a few people. When she saw us, she gracefully glided over. Harry, Liana, you're here. She linked her arm with mine intimately, her voice coquettish. Liana, you look gorgeous tonight. Just still a little pale. Haven't you been resting enough? She looked at me with concern, but there was a glint of malicious triumph in her eyes. I'm feeling much better. Thanks for your concern, Chloe, I said, gently pulling my arm away, pretending to rub my temple. Mr. Sterling, Mrs. Sterling, you make a perfect couple. And Miss Chloe looks radiant tonight. A true power player on Mr. Sterling's team, someone next to us remarked with a hint of flirtation. Chloe giggled demurely, her eyes darting toward Harry. Harry just laughed heartily, raising his glass in tacit agreement. Watching them interact so openly in front of me, I sneered inwardly. On my face, I just lowered my head shyly. The banquet reached its midpoint. The atmosphere was lively. Harry, as one of the hosts, went on stage to give a brief speech. He thanked the guests, spoke of the project's bright future. His words were sincere and confident, earning a round of applause. After he came down, he was immediately surrounded by a group of people engaged in heated discussion. Chloe seized the opportunity to come over, pulling me to a quieter spot by the floor-to-ceiling windows and handing me a glass of juice. Liana, have some juice. You still don't look well. I was just talking to Mrs. Lee. She knows an excellent psychologist who just returned from abroad. He specializes in treating physical symptoms caused by anxiety and depression. How about after the banquet, I help you make an appointment. The sooner you get checked out, the sooner you'll feel better. There she was again, so eager to push me into the pit of mental illness. I took the juice but didn't drink it. I just held it, staring out at the sparkling city lights. I was silent for a moment, then turned to look at her, my voice so calm that made her slightly uneasy. Chloe, how many years have we known each other? Chloe was taken aback for a second, then laughed. Age is right. Over 20 years. Why the sudden question? 20 years, I repeated slowly. The words were soft, but they carried a weight that made her smile stiffen. I always thought of you as my sister. I trusted you. I told you everything, including how Harry and I met, how he courted me, my doubts and my joys at the time. I shared everything with you. The smile on Chloe's face had almost vanished. Her eyes flickered. Liana, what's wrong? Are you overthinking things again? We're best friends, of course. I want you to be happy. Harry is so good to you. Yes, he's very good to me, I said with a slight smile. My gaze drifted over her shoulder to Harry. He was laughing and chatting not far away, then returned to her face. My eyes sharpened. So good that he conspired with you, fooling around in the bridal suite on our wedding day. So good that he planned with you how to use a slow-acting poison to drive me insane and seize my assets. So good that he's in cahoots with a loan shark named Slick Minnie to cover his company's debts. Chloe, is this the happiness you wished for me? My voice wasn't loud, but every word was like an ice pick stabbing directly into Chloe's ears. The color instantly drained from her face, her pupils contracted, filled with disbelief and terror. The glass in her hand almost slipped. She instinctively took a step back, her lips trembling. Liana, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? Who's been feeding you this nonsense? It was Alex, wasn't it? He always loved to stir up trouble. I took a step forward, still keeping my voice low, but my tone made her shiver. Do you need me to remind you? 3:20 p.m. the day after our wedding in the bridal suite. Every word you and Harry said about the 2 types of drugs, about how to make me naturally sick, how to get guardianship, how to deal with me afterward. Should I play it for everyone here from my phone to hear? Chloe froze completely, like a puppet with its strings cut. Her wide eyes held nothing but boundless fear. She suddenly came to her senses and reached out to snatch my phone, her voice becoming sharp. You recorded it, you were eavesdropping, give me the phone. I easily sidestepped her, looking at her coldly. Eavesdropping? Wasn't it you who left the recorder pen between the sofa cushions? Oh, and I should also thank Maria, that kind housekeeper from the Serafina brand. Hearing recorder pen and Maria, the last glimmer of hope on Chloe's face crumbled. She looked up abruptly, glaring at me with a venom that was almost tangible. Gone was the gentle best friend. You've known all along. You've been acting, Liana. I never knew you were such a bitch. Can't believe I can act as well as you, right? I sneered, gesturing with the juice in my hand. What other good stuff did you mix into this cup? The same kind you suggested mixing into my honey water last time. Chloe was breathing heavily, her chest heaving, her emotions on the verge of collapse. She suddenly raised her voice, adopting a tearful tone. Liana, what's wrong with you? Are you hallucinating again? I told you you're seriously ill, Harry. Harry, come quick, Liana's not right. Her shout immediately drew the attention of many people nearby. The chatter died down. Dozens of curious eyes turned toward us. Harry heard it too. He frowned, said something to the person next to him and strode over. His face wore a perfectly timed expression of concern and confusion. What is it, Chloe? Liana, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well? He reached out to support me. I took a step back, avoiding his hand. At the same time, in a voice only the 3 of us could hear, I said clearly, Harry, stop acting. The CCTV footage, the hotel records, the recorder pen, the hospital lab report, and the photos of you meeting with Vinny. I have them all. Your party is over. Harry's steps faltered. The concern on his face froze, then cracked and peeled away like a broken mask, revealing utter shock and panic. But he was calmer than Chloe. His eyes darted around at the curious onlookers. He lowered his voice, his tone threatening. Liana, what do you think you're doing? Don't make a scene. Whatever the issue is, we can discuss it at home. At home, I laughed. This time my voice was a little louder, ensuring those nearby could hear. Back to the home where you're preparing to have me committed to a mental institution, or back to the love nest you and Chloe have set up? There were gasps and whispers from the crowd. The initially bustling banquet hall quickly fell silent with us 3 at the center. Everyone realized something serious was happening. Harry's face turned ugly. He stepped forward, trying to grab my wrist, his voice tight with suppressed anger. Liana, that's enough. I know you've been emotionally unstable lately. Whatever misunderstanding there is, we can resolve it in private. Don't embarrass yourself here. Misunderstanding? I swiftly shook off his hand, pulled my phone out of my purse and held it high. At the same time, I raised my voice clear and steady, carrying across the suddenly silent hall. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for interrupting your evening, but tonight here I must expose a fraud. A fraud meticulously planned by my husband Harrison Sterling and my best friend Chloe for at least a year, targeting me personally for my assets and my life. The hall erupted in an uproar. All eyes were on me, filled with shock, curiosity, and disbelief. Harry's eyes turned red. He roared, Liana, you're insane. Put down the phone. Security. Where's security? Chloe also shrieked. She's crazy. She's having a psychotic break. Get her out of here. But the Pinnacle Club's security seemed slow to react. The men Alex had planted, disguised as waiters, were discreetly blocking the path toward us. I ignored their screams. I tapped my phone and played the first audio file, the recording of their conversation in the bridal suite about the drugging plan. I've got it ready. There are 2 kinds. One is fast acting, the other is a chronic type. Once she's deteriorated to a certain point, I, as her husband, will apply to be her legal guardian. Harry's cruel voice and Chloe's malicious tone, amplified by the phone's speaker, echoed clearly in the silent, opulent hall. My God, what is this? Drugging? Legal guardian? Attempted murder? This is horrifying. Gasps, whispers, and arguments broke out loudly. Everyone was stunned by the blatant, evil conversation. Their gazes toward Harry and Chloe instantly shifted from admiration to shock, disgust, and fear. Under the spotlight of countless eyes and the damning recording, Harry and Chloe's faces went completely white. Harry still tried to lunge at me to grab the phone, but was intercepted by an older gentleman who had long disliked his behavior and knew a little about the internal problems of Harry's company. I quickly switched my phone's display, connecting it to the banquet hall's large projector screen, a setup Alex had arranged with the internal staff beforehand. Instantly, a series of photos and document screenshots appeared clearly before everyone. Screenshots of the Serafina Grand's hotel records on different dates. A shot of Harry and Chloe's backs as they embraced entering a room. The PI's photos of them kissing in a car, meeting secretly in a cafe. The screenshot of the H.C. Capital business card with Chloe's title as investment director. The records of Harry's company transferring funds to Chloe's mother's account. The draft of the power of attorney and the supplementary agreement for the fraudulent project I had photographed in Harry's office. The hospital lab report showing my supplements were tainted. And finally, a clear picture of Slick Benny meeting with Harry and Chloe at the restaurant, along with a brief explanation of his background that Alex had compiled. Each image was like a hard slap across Harry and Chloe's faces, and across the faces of the partners and mentors who had just been praising them. The scene devolved into complete chaos. Shouts, curses, and questions flew relentlessly. "Harry, what the hell is all this? Chloe, how could you? That Benny guy is a monster. Harry, you're involved with people like that. What about our investment, Harry? Explain yourself." The once dapper business executives and prominent figures were now pale-faced, realizing they might be entangled in a massive fraud, facing potential investment losses and legal risks. Their gazes toward Harry were filled with a hatred that could have swallowed him whole. Harry was trembling. He pointed at the big screen, then at me, stammering, "It's fake, it's all fake, this is a setup. She's mentally ill, she fabricated all of this." I cut him off coldly, pulling a flash drive from my purse. "In here is an encrypted copy of the complete wedding CCTV backup provided by Mr. Davis and the original certificate of health and mental sanity issued by the hospital. Do I need to call Mr. Davis from the Serafina Grand Security Department, or the lawyer handling this case, and the doctor who did my tests to come here right now and explain it to everyone? Oh, and Maria, the housekeeper who found that crucial recorder pen, is also willing to testify." My words completely shattered Harry and Chloe's last line of defense. The chain of evidence was irrefutable. Chloe suddenly became hysterical. She screamed and lunged at Harry, scratching and hitting him. "It's all your fault. It's all your fault. You said the plan was flawless, now everything is ruined." Ruined. Harry, embarrassed and out of control, dodged her attacks, shouting back, "Shut up, you idiot. If you hadn't been so reckless." The two once glamorous, affectionate partners were now tearing each other apart, revealing their ugliest, most pathetic selves in public. Just then, the doors to the banquet hall swung open. Several uniformed police officers accompanied by my lawyer strode in. My lawyer gave me a slight nod. The room fell silent for a moment. The lead officer showed his badge, his sharp eyes scanning the chaotic scene, before finally landing on the disheveled, panicked Harry and Chloe. His voice was solemn. "Harrison Sterling, Chloe Parker, we have received a report and have relevant evidence to suspect you both are involved in conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted battery, illegal administration of a controlled substance, attempted grand larceny, and multiple other felonies. Please come with us to the station for investigation." The arrival of the police was the final gavel on their fate. Harry's face turned ashen, his legs gave out, and he nearly collapsed. Chloe let out a desperate wailing cry. She was restrained by a female officer. Under the countless gazes of contempt, anger, and disgust, as if looking at trash from the very elite they had once longed to join, Harry and Chloe were handcuffed and led out of the Pinnacle Club, the place where they had dreamed of striking it rich. The meticulously planned celebration of success had turned into their public trial and their downfall. I watched them being led away until their figures disappeared through the door. Only then did my straight spine relax slightly. The public humiliation was over. But I knew the legal punishment, the division of assets, and the gaping hole in my heart, completely betrayed and wounded, were all just beginning. But at least tonight I had won the first and most important battle. Harry and Chloe, their retribution had begun. I had survived, and I had taken back control of my own life. After returning from that shocking night at the Pinnacle Club, I fell gravely ill. Not a physical illness, but a mental one. The string that had been pulled taut for months suddenly snapped. The hatred and resolve that had supported me seemed to be dragged away, along with the handcuffed Harry and Chloe. After tearing down all the facades, I collapsed into a profound exhaustion and a hollow numbness. For days I holed up at home, not wanting to see anyone, not wanting to talk. Eating and drinking felt mechanical. Alex and his family took turns looking after me, grinning suits, sitting with me in silence, not asking too many questions. I knew they were worried I would break. The lawyer called, updating me on the initial progress of the case. After being taken into custody, Harry and Chloe had initially tried to deny everything, but faced with the mountain of evidence the police presented, especially the complete CCTV footage from Mr. Davis Maria's testimony, the leftover drugs found in their home, and some fraudulent documents they hadn't had time to destroy, their mental defenses gradually crumbled. They began to blame each other, each accusing the other of being the mastermind. Hearing this news, I didn't feel the satisfaction I had expected, only a deep sense of relief. The scenes of betrayal and calculation still played in my mind at night, bringing with them a dull ache and disappointment. But I didn't cry. It was as if all my tears had been shed that night at the Pinnacle Club. I knew I couldn't go on like this. For everyone who cared about me, and most importantly, for myself. Life had to go on, and I had to live better than before. Only then would I be worthy of the self that had survived this ordeal. I forced myself to get up, go out, and see a psychologist. The doctor said it was a typical post-traumatic stress reaction, requiring time and professional guidance. I actively cooperated with the therapy and also started trying some things to calm myself, like flower arranging, yoga, or just taking aimless walks in the park, feeling the sun and the wind. Slowly, the heavy weight on my chest began to lift. Meanwhile, the real-world cleanup proceeded smoothly under the legal framework. The crimes Harry and Chloe were suspected of were numerous: fraud, grand larceny by false pretense of marriage, attempted battery, forgery, and their financial dealings with Slick Benny's outfit, which could involve illegal fundraising and money laundering. The police followed the trail and soon uncovered the true extent of Harry's company's debts and their plan to use my assets to fill the hole and repay the loan shark. When the case entered the judicial process, the legal team I hired played a crucial role. They not only assisted the police in collecting evidence, but also quickly applied for asset protection in court, freezing all of Harry's accounts, though there wasn't much left, and the accounts of Chloe and her mother, which had suspicious cash flows. More importantly, based on the serious threat Harry posed to my personal safety and property, the lawyer successfully applied for a restraining order and initiated divorce proceedings against him. The divorce was a foregone conclusion. Harry's crimes were solid proof that the marital relationship had long been broken by his deception and malicious intent. The court swiftly granted the divorce. And because Harry was the at-fault party in a criminy, he not only had no right to my premarital assets, including the trust fund, real estate, and stocks from my father, but even the so-called investments he made with my money. During our brief cohabitation, the fraudulent project were deemed malicious transfer of marital property, and he was ordered to return the funds and pay damages. In other words, his scheme failed. He lost everything, and ended up with a massive debt to me. Though in his current state that debt would likely never be repaid. Chloe's fate was just as tragic. As an accomplice, her prison sentence would be no shorter than Harry's. Her job was gone, her reputation in our community was ruined. Her own parents, out of shame, appeared only once during the initial hearing, and were never seen again. I heard her emotional state in prison was very unstable, sometimes crying that she was deceived and coerced by Harry, other times cursing me for destroying her life. Her malicious plan to frame me as mentally ill to evade punishment became the most direct evidence of her evil intent, leading to a harsher sentence. As for Slick Benny, thanks to Harry and Chloe's joint confessions and some leads the police already had, his criminal organization was also dismantled. They were prosecuted for racketeering, illegal lending, and violent debt collection. The law has a long arm. The law gave them their due punishment. But I understood that the real retribution was far more than just sitting in a prison cell. My lawyer once told me that in a final pretrial meeting, when Harry learned he was facing a sentence of over 10 years, possibly much longer, and that he would still be burdened with huge debts, social death, and a shattered reputation. With no credibility upon release, the once arrogant man, who thought he could play everyone, finally broke down. He wept uncontrollably in the detention center, repeatedly murmuring, "It's over. Everything is over." Chloe in her cell was said to have learned a hard lesson. She looked haggard and aged a far cry from her former glamorous self. They lost their freedom, their future, their wealth, their reputation, and forever lost the right to be normal people. This was the cruelest punishment of all. I felt no sympathy, only a sense of sorrow. For greed and lust, they had turned their lives into a complete tragedy. After the case concluded, my life gradually got back on track, heading in a new direction. I took back everything that belonged to me. My father's trust fund was now properly managed with a more stable investment plan. The old family home that was to be redeveloped was also settled. I used part of the funds plus my own savings to buy a small but cozy apartment in a quiet, vibrant neighborhood. I decorated it to my own taste. This place was entirely mine without a trace of Harry or the past. I didn't choose to continue being a wealthy, idle woman. After everything, I realized the importance of financial and personal independence. My father's inheritance was a safety net, but it wasn't everything. I picked up the professional interests I had abandoned since college, enrolling in courses on business management and art investment, slowly learning and enriching myself. By chance, a professor I met through a course appreciated my seriousness and the calm I had found after my ordeal. He invited me to join a small non-profit project supporting non-local artists, where I was responsible for some public relations and planning work. I began to venture into a new field full of creativity. Though it was tough at first and there was a lot to learn, I was passionate about it. I felt I was truly creating value, not just consuming or guarding assets. In the process, I felt like I was slowly finding the real me, the one who had been buried under lies and betrayal. I was no longer the foolish woman who needed to rely on someone he'd trusted too easily, who placed all her happiness in a marriage. I learned to be cautious, learned to protect myself, and became clearer about the kind of life I wanted. My mindset changed, and so did my view of the world. I no longer dwelled on the pain of the past, but instead tried to look forward. My relationship with Alex and his family grew even closer. I truly felt the strength of family love. I also formally thanked Mr. Davis and Maria, giving them appropriate gifts that wouldn't burden them. Mr. Davis said the hotel received recognition from the police and the community for their cooperation and for providing key evidence. He himself got a promotion. Maria held my hand, her eyes red, and said, "Child, it's all in the past. From now on, it's all good days. Your mother in heaven can finally rest easy." "Yes, Mom, I made it through," I said in my heart. About half a year after my life was back on track, one spring day I was visiting an art exhibition to find suitable artists for a project. In an inconspicuous corner, I was captivated by an oil painting. It depicted an old street after the rain. The wet bluestone pavement reflected the light of the sky. A patch of wildflowers in a corner of the wall was blooming stubbornly. The use of color was subtle, conveying a sense of decay, but also a vibrant hope. I stood before it for a long time. "It's a beautiful painting." A gentle male voice sounded beside me. I turned to see a man in a casual shirt with a clean and elegant aura, probably in his early 30s. He was smiling at me, his eyes clear. "Yes, it's very evocative. Especially the lighting and this feeling of old and new coexisting," I nodded, sharing my thoughts. He seemed a little surprised that I understood the essence of the piece, and started chatting with me about the painting's background and technique. Through our conversation, I learned his name was Julian. He was one of the curators of the exhibition, and also an art college graduate who now managed shows and taught at a university. He was very interested in the nonprofit project I was working on. We exchanged contact information, agreeing we could discuss potential collaborations in the future. After that, we did occasionally connect over art and the project, mostly via email or text, discussing professional issues or sharing information about interesting exhibitions. Julian was always measured, gentle, and polite. He never crossed any lines, which made me feel very comfortable. Sometime later, my nonprofit project was ready to hold a small exhibition. We needed a venue and professional guidance. I tentatively reached out to Julian. He readily agreed to help. He not only provided a lot of practical advice, but also came to the exhibition site in person to help adjust the lighting and layout. He was professional and patient. On the day the exhibition successfully concluded, we had a simple dinner together. Afterward, Julian walked me home. Arriving at my apartment building, I thanked him. "It was my pleasure. I was happy to help," Julian said, standing under a streetlight. The warm yellow light made his features look very soft. He looked at me and suddenly said, "Seriously, Liana, I've actually heard bits and pieces of your story in some circles. I really admire you. To be able to walk out of that kind of darkness and still be so positive, helping others and doing what you love." I was a little taken aback, not expecting him to bring it up. But in his eyes, I saw no pity or gossip, only sincere respect and appreciation. "That's all in the past," I smiled, feeling a sense of release. "You have to look forward." Yes, he smiled too, handing me a small delicate paper bag. This is for you. It's nothing expensive. An old sketchbook I found while sketching outdoors a while ago. I thought it was special and I thought you might like it. I took it. A warm feeling spread through my heart, not because of the gift, but because of this timely kindness free of any ulterior motives and full of understanding. Thank you. I look forward to seeing it, I said. He didn't say anything more, just a soft goodnight, and waited until I had entered the building before leaving. I went back to my small apartment and opened the old sketchbook. Inside were sketches of a small European town from a century ago, quiet and distant. I leaned against the sofa looking at the city lights outside my window. My heart was very calm. There was even a hint of joy I hadn't felt in a long time. I knew my story with Julian might just be beginning, or we might just remain like-minded partners. But either way, it was a new, healthy, and reassuring relationship. I was no longer in a hurry to grasp onto something to prove myself. Nor was I afraid to trust again. I was an independent, complete person, and I could face anyone, any relationship with equanimity. The night grew late. I closed the sketchbook. On my nightstand was a family photo of my parents and me from years ago. I gently touched the frame. Mom, Dad, I'm doing well. Really. The past trauma and betrayal didn't destroy me. Instead, they forged a stronger, more discerning, and more appreciative person. I took back what was mine, and found the path I truly wanted to walk. The future might still have challenges, but I was no longer afraid. As for Harry and Chloe, they had received their retribution. My world had cleared, greeting a new dawn. Good begets good, evil begets evil. It's not that there is no retribution. It's just a matter of time. My time was for rebirth. For relief. For moving forward lightly, having shed all the burdens of the past. Tomorrow the art exhibition would officially open. The sunlight would surely be wonderful.